Okay, it's time for us to make a new video today. I'm going to talk about the missing, what I've always been talking about, the missing half of the human psyche, especially in our modern Western culture. And I'll start by a post that I wrote a few years ago, which says that our modern psychology is not enough because it does not study, as its name suggests, psychology, psychology, study of the soul, psyche and ology. It does not study, it does not take the soul and its needs, into account. So I'll read you what I wrote, then I'll give you, then I'll read to you quote. I think it's from perhaps from Anne Baring's, I think, book, The Dream of the Cosmos, and it was written by Lawrence van der Post, a Jungian, and it goes a little bit more into detail of what I'm going to be talking about today. So, unless, as its name suggests, psychology actually heals the divine feminine, the soul of a wounded world from this overly rational masculine minds and force split between nature and soul, we don't need more materialistic psychology. Exactly, because psychology, the mainstream psychology, and the everyday street psychology, if you like, if you were to walk in, all they're going to be really concerned about is how well you fit into society, and your fears, your desires, and everything that is programmed, that you've been programmed by society, how well you're going to fit into that society. So your hang-ups and your relationship problems, or your addictions, or your hysteria maybe, or your phobias and things, but it hardly ever takes into account what the soul needs, and that is to say, it needs to be reintegrated into everyday life, into your everyday life, and that's the healing. Healing cannot take place by rearranging same things that got you into this sickness in the first place. Healing is reuniting, reintegrating the soul, the spirit part of yourself, into everyday life, and it has its own language. If you don't understand the language of the soul, you don't understand the archetypal, the mythological images that are in you, that dwell within you, how can you begin even to heal other people? And most psychologists, none of them do. They only deal with numbers and what shall we call them? They have these tables and things, how things fit in, and how many numbers of these people are sick, why they're sick in such a way, and it doesn't address the root cause of the problem. So so that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today. Hopefully it's not going to be a very long video for you. So I continue with what I wrote then. We desperately need more mad people who fearlessly mount the mystic vehicle, the ridiculed feminine intuition, but that's what we're talking about. That's the part of the soul that we are really talking about. The mind, the human mind, is divided into two halves. So you've got your intuitive mind and you've got your rational mind. We worship only the rational mind and totally ignore the intuitive mind. The intuitive mind is the archetypal mind. That's the feminine. The rational mind is the masculine mind. That's society, what we only take into account. We completely ignore the other half. So, feminine intuition, and show us the way to healing and wholeness. Mystics, shamans, and true poets and artists, mythologists and fairytologists, and deep dreamers, healers of our soul of all kinds. Exactly. That was the point, that was the job previously throughout centuries. That was the job of a prophet. A prophet's not there just to give you, foretell the future. It's there to keep the eternal part, the soul part of us alive, to show you that your mind is in two parts. That the collective unconscious part, the intuitive mind, is missing, and it brings the prophet's job was to bring you to that center, bring you to that deeper part of your of your psyche, which, by the way, you're born with. It's not something you acquire or you learn or because you have to read mythological books or something. You are born with it already. We are all born with it already. You have that inherited deep within you. This mythological mind, if you like. That's the deep part, the feminine, the missing. Yeah, the intuitive mind and her symbols. That's why I call mythological mind and her symbol one of my pages. Yeah, so that's really what's missing. And if you don't understand the symbols, you have to make the effort to learn. So you got in ancient times, for instance, in the Neolithic, in the area called Southern Europe, where Maria Gimbutas was doing her research around Turkey, Greece, former Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, there used to be a culture called she called it the Old Europe, all centered in the feminine, the goddess. And the predominant symbols and images of that goddess were bird-headed women. So there is the bird. The bird has the ability to live in both realities at once. It lives above and below. It lives on water and on land. That's the core of the symbology of the feminine, of your soul, of the spirit. It has to bridge the two realities into one. Yeah? It bridges the conscious and the unconscious. All symbols related to the soul are like that, whether it is bridge or whether it is water, whether it is bear in the old mythologies. Bear because it lives in a cave. It lives outside the cave and inside the cave. It lives in both realities. Hedgehog is another one because it lives above the ground and below the ground. Frog is a very old symbol of the soul, because it has the ability to live on land and in water. It leaps like the intuitive mind across the leaves on pond of a lake. So it leaps intuitively from one association to another association to another association. Fish is another one, very old symbol, because the fish's eyes dart in the water like your intuitive mind darts again from association to association. Silver eyes just darting, just here and there. Deer is another one, because deer lives on the edge of the forest. They usually feed on the edge of the forest. So the association is it lives in the forest and outside the forest. It lives within the unconscious and the conscious reality. So that's very important to understand this. Okay, so I'll read you now a post that I shared by Lawrence van der Post. It's from Forward to the Myth of the Goddess, Anne Baring and Jules Cashford. Yeah? So this is what he says. History as a record of the past has been told almost entirely in terms of its outer eventfulness, and in a sense this is the least of history. So history, like you could say, psychology has been told only from its outer eventfulness. It's missing entirely its inner eventfulness. That's the problem. You can't heal the real problem that humanity faces, and whether individual human or the whole humanity, by simply rearranging the outer things that got you in the mess in the first place, in the sickness in the first place. You have to understand the symbols and go deeper to the collective unconscious. Bring that in and heal the split between your mind, your ego, and the collective unconscious mind, the dimension of the soul. Yeah. So this is the list of history. History progresses on two levels. A manifest one and a profound one, which is irresistible, but only which is irresistible but not fully expressed, demanding to make itself known through the way we shape our lives in the world without, and through the failures and disasters brought about because of its hidden inner eventfulness, is not fully recognized and given its due role in the human spirit and its societies. Exactly. That's why we have so many human conditions and sickness and disasters in the world, because it's not being brought into the into everyday life, into society. It's just simply it's not even projected. It's the split is being projected. The inner eventfulness is not really projected, but the split itself, so the wars and duality of all sorts. My tribe against the other tribe. We're not the same tribe. Complete nonsense. This kind of stuff goes on to this day. We see it in the Middle East, we see it in Europe, we see it everywhere. These people are superior to these people. Yeah? These people are chosen by God, but these people are not. It's complete nonsense. This duality is because we only look on the outside, on the outside of things. We don't look below the surface of what the real cause is, and the real cause is inability to understand that we have this deeper mind that needs to be reintegrated. Okay. There is no dimension of history of which this is more true than the way the feminine half of the human spirit has been dealt with by the masculine dominated societies and inadequately acknowledged and evolved in our culture and civilizations. The feminine is missing. The feminine is, remember, that's the deeper dimension, the collective unconscious. We see the results of this neglect, which is still with us still, in decay of the feeling and the caring values of life, and in the pursuit of the masculine rationalism, which seems to be the dominant element in the establishment of today. That's the real sickness. The one-sidedness, simply just rationalism, nothing else. The intuitive is completely forgotten. But here at last is a work of immense pioneering significance. It is pioneering that it has been done admirably in all sorts of sorties and forays of imaginative men into this undiscovered dimension. But it has never been done as it should have been done by women, by the feminine itself looking for the feminine, as we have looked for the masculine in the remote origins of life on earth, and our progression into this great and tumultuous time of ours. Again, like I said before, women are the living embodiment of the feminine, the missing mind. And this is what he says here too. It's never been done by women, the living embodiment of the feminine. Yeah, it says acknowledge culture. But it's never been done as it should have been done by women, the feminine itself looking for the feminine. Why is a woman an embodiment of the feminine? Remember how I told you that, for instance, a frog or a bird is a symbol of the missing soul, of that missing half of our collective unconscious, because a frog has the ability to live in both realities, or a bird has the ability to be above and below, frog on land and on in the water. A woman has a womb. She has a vagina through which the spirit manifests, comes into this reality, physical reality. She, like the bird which really lives in two dimensions, she too, a woman too, is a portal, a door through which the dimension of the spirit connects to this dimension of physical reality. One of the oldest images of the soul, of this portal between the two dimensions of the spirit and everyday life, is woman, and especially her vagina. She brings life. She is the door through which life, through which the spirit manifests itself in this dimension. Through children. Men don't have a womb. That's why societies which are dominated by men miss this completely, this other dimension. There are many men who are intuitive, who understand this, but most of the society doesn't. And it doesn't mean that when I'm speaking of the feminine, that it's only women. Women as a symbol is the symbol of the feminine. But many women, most women in this modern society are just as bad as us men, who have completely forgotten about the deeper dimension of the soul. The portal, the intuitive portal between the two dimensions. Women are just as rational, if not more than men, because they are trying harder to fit into that male society, to that rational society, masculine society, should I say, the rational society. So traditionally, mythologically, from the point of the view of the soul, one of the oldest images of the soul, of this portal between the two dimensions, the union of the wholeness, is woman, because she has the opening, the womb through which the two dimensions relate to each other. And men don't. But the modern woman is just as rational, if not worse, which makes it even crueler than males. If we look at the politics, they fight to hold on to power, and women will do nearly anything to hold on to power because they see it as a privilege. Now, they have been given this opportunity that was really just male dominated for so many centuries. Now they are able to have these positions of power. They will do nearly anything to hold on to power. That makes them even crueler, more power hungry. And we can see this in politics, especially in Europe and in our Western countries. Yeah. So we continue. Progression. Jules Cashford and Anne Baring have done precisely this. They have gone as far down into history as one can go and followed it through into the present day. It is a great story that they have to tell, and it is a timely story because it is the loss of the feminine eventfulness which has led to the most urgent and dangerous problem of our time, the exploitation and also the rejection of our Mother Earth. Yeah? Our mother not only deprived of the great store of life it had prepared for us, but increasingly being denied the chance to do more. Here, for the first time to my knowledge, the story is told in full. It is the awful, yet at the same time strangely inspiring story of the feminine. Still, it is told in full, not awful. Still unvanquished and undismayed, which we are all called to honor and obey if we are not also to vanish, like so many other cultures in the labyrinth of the past through which the authors followed the golden thread. The horizon behind us is littered with the rubble of civilizations which have failed to renew themselves, have failed to challenge somehow, to transcend the opposites in something that will combine in balance both the masculine and the feminine, and in the union create something greater than the sum of their parts. That's the sickness that we have in our modern society. That's why I'm saying the modern psychology, the mainstream psychology is just not enough. It's not enough. It's just merely rearranging the things that got us into the trouble in the first place. And that's why most psychologists don't even try to heal the patient when he comes with something like a big dream or something, because they don't understand. First of all, they don't understand it themselves. And secondly, there's no calling for it in our society. So what usually happens is if someone is diagnosed with hysteria or a paranoia, and they're given drugs to suppress the deeper experiences of the feminine. Yeah, I see this in everyday life. People, of course, you have to be, you have to be careful with people that have schizophrenia and so on, because bringing up this material can make it worse and will make it worse. But if you have the knowledge of what you're doing, what you're dealing with, you can gently start open up the person to the reality that there's something deeper that wants to communicate through them. And generally, their condition improves. But we don't have that in our mainstream psychology. There's no understanding of the symbology, first of all, the language of the soul that is communicated in these deeper dreams, bigger dreams or visions. I don't even want to talk about visions, because visions, a lot of times, visions are permeated with simply... if it is spontaneous vision, fine, but a lot of visions are just a personal thing put on it, and it's so difficult to wade through it that it makes no sense. But dreams, especially big dreams, archetypal dreams, you can use that. Slowly open up the person, show them that there's nothing really wrong with you. We go for time. This has been happening for thousands of years to many people, to poets, to artists, to prophets. People have dreamt the same thing. Yeah. So now I want to share with you a few dreams, and that, for instance, one dream by Anne Baring that showed this missing half and how it works when you recover this relationship to the collective conscious, to the soul, how that works with you then in everyday life. When Anne Baring, when Anne was younger, in London, she had a shop. She had a dressmaking shop. She used to make night dresses, the elegant, big, full dresses to wear at night for women. I think they're called dinner dresses. And one day she dreamt that in her workshop there was the chief mistress. Seamstress, not mistress, seamstress. And this seamstress was dog-headed. She was like a goddess. She was dog-headed. And it was she that made the designs. It was she that arranged everything, how it's going to work in Anne's shop to run her business, especially how to make the designs that worked. It was she that made the designs. This is an image, a really old archetypal image of the soul. Like I explained to you before, dog-headed, because dogs have the ability to follow a scent back to its source. They live in both realities at once. You see? And that's, that was her, Anne used to be a Jungian psychoanalyst, so she understands all this. She made the contact on relations with the soul, and the soul in everyday life was helping her. This is the image of the spirit, of the archetypal image. Yeah, Boris wants to go outside. He has to wait a few minutes. So this is one dream of someone who's made the contact with the soul, and the soul is in the everyday life helping them. This is an image of wholeness. When you work together, when you have created a relationship, between the conscious and the unconscious. Another one is Betty Kovacs. That's the name I wanted to share with you. I think it was last time that I said this. Let me see. Yeah, and she had a dream of being in a museum. This is, I remember telling you about this, but I probably haven't told you exactly how it was. And Betty Kovacs is also, I think she's also Jungian, and she was a professor of mythology at a university, and now she does talks, and so she helps also. She's also a voice for the feminine. So this is her dream. I had a dream of Anubis. And I dreamed that I was in Ashmolean Museum, and I went in. I wanted to look at some of the artifacts, and then I looked over, and there was a jackal, sort of in human form, but with the jackal head, and he was sitting there in a deep state of meditation. This is Anubis. I told you about the Anubis. Yeah? This is an archetypal dream. And I thought, well, I won't disturb him. So I looked at the artifacts, and suddenly he was standing right behind me, right by me, and he said, "You can study the artifacts if you wish, but I can teach you anything you need to know." Yeah, remember my dreams that I was sharing with you? And I turned and looked at him and said, "Who are you?" And then there was a sort of an opening up, and a voice said, "The void, the all." So, Betty Kovacs also made contact with that missing dimension, the intuitive mind, the archetypal, the collective unconscious. And the jackal, the Anubis, this is the image of the self. Jung talks about the self. This is the helpful. Once you make contact with it, it becomes your partner in everyday life. Yeah. So this is what she says. If you don't find this power within you, you will look for power outside of you. What are we going for time? Yeah, we've got a little bit. If we go inward and achieve awareness of our shadow, the collective shadow of humanity is the missing soul, our intuition. This is my comment. And allow our heart consciousness to develop. If we do that, we do not need power outside ourselves. But I think if we fail in that as an individual or as a culture, as a group, then we open ourselves to want to grab power, because that's what fulfills us. If we can't find our inner power, we must have it in the outside world. And that's the problem. If we don't find this, we don't heal ourselves, we will project the problems onto the outside world, and that's where we cause trouble. When we are still divided within ourselves, we project that division onto the outside world, and that's where we create wars and conflicts. And my group is the chosen group, and your group is the the devil incarnate, and so on. So this is the real problem in our society, the missing half of human psyche. And if you go to a mainstream psychologist, that is going to be missing there completely. So how can you even begin to heal someone? The real underneath problem, the root of the cause of the problem, without even understanding that there is a rift between this collective unconscious and conscious, between the ego, the part that has been programmed or created by society, and the deeper inherited psyche, the wider horizons of the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious, which it repeats itself in every human being. That's the root of our oneness. If you understand that, then you cannot say that I am better than another, I am chosen and the other is not. Yeah? Okay, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Boris needs to go out. He's just had something to eat. So thanks for listening, and hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.